Before we get started tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on another episode here, or Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, I want you to introduce y'all to our title sponsor for the network. The Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players playing to play and hope so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on the quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Wherever you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can find them on social media, at Twitter at SoCal Warriors. You can find them on Instagram at Southern California _Warriors. And you can find them on Facebook, Southern California Warriors. Now on to the show. What up, everybody? In today's broadcast, we'll discuss Brittany Griner's still, unresolved situation in Russia. We talked DeAndre Ayton re-signing with the, Phoenix matching offer for DeAndre Ayton. I know it happened last week, but, since summer is kind of dead in the NBA, we kind of spread it out a little bit. So we talk about that and the future for the franchise. Plus, with the Donovan Mitchell rumors to the Knicks, can Leon Rose get the deal done with the Utah Jazz, or will Utah's asking price be too much for the Big Apple? We'll discuss that and much more here on Fast Break, live on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for the As Always Sports, and you're welcome to join us. And join us as you shout tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to talk about, lots to get into. We're going to have a good show tonight. Feeling good, feeling great. D-Lock, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I've been watching a lot of track and field this past week. A lot of different things going on. Had a tough battle in multiple events. But all in all, very exciting to see. But with that being said, once that do end, I'm pretty sure everybody's excited for football, and then basketball season comes right around the corner, especially with a lot of off-season moves and acquisitions going on at this moment.
Yes, football season around the corner. If you follow like local high school football, I know here in the South, for me specifically in Alabama, like it gets up and rolling here on August 12th. So football is around the corner very quickly. But there's a little bit of basketball news out there, for the moment. And all that. I know we haven't really got to the subject yet, D-Lock. It hasn't come about to us. I mean, it's just like everything's kind of, I don't say we're bigger than it, but it always felt like this situation will always got resolved sooner than later. But then, things kept happening. But Brittany Griner, she been in Russia for the past few months now. And, her situation, ain't the best. But, you know, as y'all know, she brought the vape pipes or whatever in her bag. Russia don't play about that stuff. Or a lot of foreign countries do. We can put it in that way. Ms. Griner, who's been there multiple times, maybe should have known that. But anyway, she's been locked up for a simple possession. D-Lock, as no new news had come out about her lately. What has been your thoughts on her situation as a whole? And then you, as a former athlete that has been overseas, how would you handle that situation if you were her shoes?
Well, biggest thing is the fact that there's rules for a different country.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't follow those, it puts you in a totally different situation than when you're, not following rules in your own country, right?
Yep.
We break rules here. You go to jail or have different things that can possibly happen that you don't want to deal with. But when you break other rules and you break some of the rules in a different country where you may not know what the repercussions are. For me, I'm still stuck on the fact that most of them may not speak your language. So now you're in a situation where you're just going all over the damn place and don't know what's being said or talked about or discussed. So, but their repercussion can be a hell of a lot different. So, now the thing about her situation is, we know that as Americans, a lot of countries, it's kind of like they have an issue with us, about how we do things. We do a lot of different things in different ways than they do. And obviously with different, disagreements, stuff like that, as an American, one thing you don't want to do is get in any kind of trouble in any different country, especially any that has an issue with us. So, me personally, I think that Russia is just understanding what's at stake, and they're using it to their defense right now, knowing that she. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm sorry. I just seen a world record being broken. But what happens is that means that being in that situation makes it a hell of a lot harder for any just person. And now that you're an athlete with a name, Russia is trying to use this to their defense. So I think this situation is rough. They're gonna make it tough like that, just because of the name that she has and how we as a country is taking it. I've heard a lot of people say that if LeBron was in that situation, there would be different results. The results would be pushed up. We would have results a lot faster. So I think that Russia understands what the situation is, and we as a country and the people that control this country need to have a bigger impact and understand the issue that is at hand. Now me as a former athlete in a situation of being in a different country, first of all, it's scary as hell. Because like I said, you don't really know too much. One of the number one things is your phone is probably not going to work at all. We complain about the services being different here in Miami. In our country with Verizon and T-Mobile and all that stuff. If you go over in a different country, if you don't pay for any kind of phone stuff there, your phone is not going to work as soon as you land. So now you have no way to contact other people, and then now you can't communicate with anybody. So that's one of the biggest things for me. But being in the country, and in fact, I actually went to Russia, visited Russia myself back in 2013. That is a different area. I'll say that. So totally different country. So it just, you want to make sure that you are basically putting yourself out of harm's way in most countries. You want to make sure you're doing everything that you need to and continue to not have passport is the number one thing that you want to have. So, but something like this is just being delayed. I think, we have to make sure as a country we need to continue to voice how important it is, and we need to do something about it. But right now, it just seems like it's being delayed at this time.
I want to shout out to the chat. I want to shout out to Terry Rodriguez. Yes, sir. Football, Alabama. Yeah, it's starting that early. But I take credit to these kids for working 24/7 to get ready for the season. Shout out to Kel Henderson in the chat. How you doing tonight, sir? Shout out to Marcus Los. Great in the chat. Here's my thing with Brittany Griner and her situation. One thing I got tired of seeing is this. A certain group of folks want to continue to push this narrative of law and order. And I know, yes, Brittany shouldn't. And she's been to Russia plenty of times. And she should know what's up. But, I think it's that deep. It depends. Do Russia know who they got in their possession? Yeah. Do they know? Do we know when she will get out? I don't know. With Russia and the Ukraine situation, I'm pretty sure Brittany Griner is on a very bottom of the list of the people to handle with. But there's a certain segment of the population here in the States that want to preach law and order to a certain degree. But, we've seen other situations years past, if other folks got in trouble or anything overseas, they'd be squalling and crying for her to come back home. Or that individual come back home. I know her wife is begging, pleaded to the government to try to help and resolve the situation. I don't know. Like I said, it's up to the top of their priority as well. In my humble opinion. So she may be sitting there for a while, D-Lock. She may be. We seen with LiAngelo Ball when he got in trouble when he was at UCLA along with the other two players, sitting there boosting in China, which I still flabbergasted that they did that. Because all you gotta do is hit up his dad for some money. And I think dad will hook him up. I think we all know that. We all know LeVar will take care of his kids and any of his needs, and probably the other two young men with them. And we see what happened to the other two young men. I don't know. I don't think they played college ball too much after that incident. But I hope she gets back home soon. She did plead guilty, for her possession. And, like you alluded to, you go to these other countries, it's pins and needles to a sense. You gotta be aware of your surroundings. You gotta make sure you don't mess up. And as always that saying, you gotta make it home. Got to. Yeah, I know the WNBA's been doing their best to bring light to the situation and stuff like that. And I know the Mercury head coach brought up LeBron James' name in this. I know she was just using him as an example. But I'll say this. For as long as LeBron's been the limelight in his basketball career, he was starting at high school. He never ever has put himself in a situation to be caught up in something. Let's be real about that. I even sent you a tweet not too long ago, D-Lock. You know, when the coach, the Phoenix Mercury coach, I don't know, got the name top of my head, but when she said that, there's people on Twitter saying, hell, if LeBron got arrested like that, I'll go get him my damn self.
Yep, I've seen that.
And I think that's what we're dealing with here. The totem pole, what I just alluded to. Brittany Griner is not that, I hate to say it like this, but in the eyes of the U.S. and Russia, it ain't like a priority to a situation to be dealt with. Like that. And like I said, LeBron would never put himself in a situation like this. So I hate when people kind of invoke his name, like, well, you know, if LeBron James got in trouble, LeBron would never put himself in a situation to get in trouble. He's very careful. Him and his team are very careful in what he does. On the court, outside the court. I always give LeBron praise this. If something happened to Skip Bayless and he dropped dead tomorrow, LeBron go on Twitter or whatever, release a statement and dog cuss him out, I really don't blame him there. Because LeBron should have been called out that dude. But credit to him for not doing that. But this is what I meant. LeBron ain't going to put himself in that situation. Brittany Griner going there to Russia to play multiple times should have known that. Now, some of y'all probably wonder why she's over there. Playing overseas is very lucrative to these ladies. Not just to her. We've seen like Diane Taurasi, Liz Cambridge, others play overseas for never six figures for several months. Plus, it keeps their body in shape and all that stuff. So, you know, I hope she gets back on soon. You know, I think kind of telling the other advocacy groups are not really going hard for Brittany as they would in other situations. But that's probably like for me to talk about on my other show where I could really go hard on that. But I just hope she gets back on soon. And she probably will never play overseas again unless it's another country. But even with that, with her pleading guilty to the drug charge, you know how other countries are, they're real iffy about those situations.
Yeah, I'm with you. My thing is, I agree on the aspect of, you know, we talk about athletes staying out of trouble, you know, keeping themselves in the best spots. You really never really heard anything about LeBron James, like you said. So these things now, you know, understand the situations going on, what Russia is doing, but we do know the kind of history that Brittany Griner has had. You know, the things that she's done in school. Remember, she punched a girl in the face on the basketball court. So there's different things that kind of lead into it, but at the end of the day, you know, these type of things. And like I said, when you go to, especially when you travel to a different country, right? For me, I was the type of athlete that literally was, I'm not leaving my hotel. I don't need to go around and take no photos. My mom used to be like, why don't you go out and go take photos, this, that, and the third? I'm like, man, if I leave this hotel, I don't even know if I'm coming back. So I was more so on the safe side. You know, a lot of people want to go explore. Cool, when you go with a group of people, that's fine. But a lot of times when athletes go there, they're going there for their sport. They're probably not with a group of people, maybe the team possibly. And then sometimes they may just go there who want to go explore different things. They're just literally not going in that huge group to where some people as a family, you know, they go with a family of 2 kids and a husband or a wife or whatever. So I said that a lot of times athletes go over there listen, most of the time, yeah, you go explore, see a couple things, but it's probably best, to play things on the safe side because clearly, you have an example now of what countries would do, just to get that type of attention and to see if they can grab attention and from America. So it's a rough situation, and it sucks. It's going to the person that it's going to, but at the end of the day, this is something that probably wouldn't happen to a LeBron, to be honest with you.
Yeah, her team defends Mercury. To kind of shift to the WNBA real quick. It's been really seesaw, to say the least. Not the best season for them. You're talking about a team that was just in the WNBA finals this past season, going against the Chicago Sky. You have Skylar Diggins Smith. Her issues with the coaching staff and the tweet. Displaying saying F you to the coach. And all that stuff. I look at the standings right now for the WNBA. Phoenix is 12-16. Right now. So this is, you're not, and they're not too far from the 6th seed. There's a half game back from the Sparks. But, if you make the playoffs, hell, the way Las Vegas and Chicago have been playing this year, and to a degree Connecticut, you really don't want to see one of those two teams in the first round. So, I hope she comes back soon. I hope, this is a lesson to any athlete that go overseas that if you do something crazy or silly, these other countries don't play like that. Who was the Olympian, D-Lock, that got in trouble for busting up the bathroom? In Brazil, I forgot his name.
About Ron Lochte?
Yeah. This him, doing that damage to the bathroom. They ready to beat him down and keep him, arrest him and stuff like that. So if you're an athlete, you gotta be your surroundings. I know you can go over there and have a good lucrative career, like a local guy here in Alabama, Richard Hendricks, played at Alabama, got drafted by the Golden State Warriors in 2009 in the second round. Didn't happen in the NBA, but played overseas in Turkey for multiple years. Played in Japan for a couple. Now I work for the SEC network calling basketball games. It can happen. You can make a good career out of it. But I'm just saying, don't put yourself in situations like that. And going to
the thing is, it just seems like. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
Well, it just seems like a lot of times, like I said, you're traveling to these other countries, and these athletes feel like to play, on the other end, they feel like they can just go over there and what they do overseas would not catch up with them when they get, back to the States. But
yep.
The thing about it is you got to get back to the States. You know what I'm saying? And that's the biggest thing. And like I said, my past history of being on 2013 USA World Championship team, it was two things that they told us. Number one, whenever you leave the hotel, go with at least 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
That was the number one thing. And two, whatever you do, make sure it's not going to come back and haunt you later. So when you're out doing these different things, make sure it's not going to come and catch your ass later. If you try to go ruin the bathroom or you go steal from somewhere, all these different things. Because there are some countries where literally if you steal something or you do something, they will literally cut your hand off.
Mm-hmm.
So those type of things, and your country can't do anything about that. So it's just, to me, very interesting to see what happens. It just, I don't, I wouldn't, I would more so play it safe if I was a lot of these athletes, to be honest with you. At least that's what I did because, hearing the history, also having friends from Bahamas, having friends from Jamaica, having friends from Belgium, they always said, even when I was in school, like, oh, this all y'all got for doing this? In my country, this will happen and that will happen. So there's a lot of things that you don't want to, you don't want to risk when you, go, as we say, go overseas. I think athletes would be smart to play it safe that way.
And going to the chat real quick, Terrence said, that's true, Davidson. LeBron would never be in that situation. His mom raised him not to get involved in stuff like that. But I think it's just more like LeBron has a whole brand. Even in high school, he had like a whole brand. As we've seen over the years, he has a whole brand. Not just Nike and stuff like that. The movies, commercials, all that stuff, endorsements, the teams that he's been on. It's just like the whole brand. He can't put himself in a situation like that. I mean, kind of look what happened with Kobe in that situation. He lost a lot of money in that time period. He was doing commercials, Sprite, McDonald's, all that type of stuff. And once that situation in Colorado happened, hell, he lost a lot of money. Now, granted, like towards the tail end of his career, he recouped some of that money back. And if his unfortunate death didn't happen, I think he was probably poised to make more money than he was possibly playing. But, we will never know on that. Kel Henderson said that Brittany Griner situation is tough. She did something illegal in another country and is now at the mercy of that other country. That sucks. Yeah, that's very true. And Marcus made a great point. Russia don't give a F. He also said, even if it was LeBron, the NBA would be as powerless as the WNBA. Hey, that's true. And, if they had LeBron captive, they would ask for a whole bunch of crap. If we're being real. So we'll see what happens with Brittany. I think it's over 100 days or so that she's been over there. So hopefully she'll get home soon, or they work out something, some trade or whatever. And
yeah, hopefully they do, because at this point, you done been over there for so long. You damn near feel like you're at home at this point.
Yeah.
You made that transition, And then, I'm not sure if you know off the top of your head, I don't know exactly what it is, but I believe over there it's like probably, depending on what time zone, it got to be between 6 to 8 hour difference. Between 6 to 8 hours, probably 10 hours difference. So, she's literally getting used to things now, or probably been used to things now. And like I said, Russia is a tough place to be, man, to be honest with you. That one experience I had there, I don't want to go back. That's just, my personal experience. I definitely don't want to go back there.
Yeah, so we'll see how things shake out for her and her situation down the road. The other news that happened not about last week or so, DeAndre Ayton signed an offer sheet with the Indiana Pacers. He signed for 4 years, $133 million. I'll get to that in a second. But, Phoenix was on the fence, D-Log, about keeping him, paying him max money, all that good stuff. So, they matched the offer. Ayton's back in the fold. Along with Devin Booker with his big max extension. Chris Paul got a pretty nice extension as well. With Ayton back in the fold, is Phoenix again a top 3 seed in the West? or they kind of do they take a little tumble down the standings a little bit?
Talk about bringing Ayton back.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they still, up there. I just feel like at this point, bringing Ayton back. I think you messaged me after that and felt like that Ayton did a hell of a bad job with Ayton. His agent did. So for me, I feel like they're in a similar situation. Now that means that they can't trade Ayton for Kevin Durant, correct?
No, he can't be traded until at least January.
Yeah. So now that puts them at a totally different situation when it comes to that. So more than likely they're not going to get Kevin Durant, especially if they're not giving up Devin Booker. Damn, so they're giving up Chris Paul. So I think they're still up there. You got Golden State number 1. Who am I missing? I probably would put Phoenix at probably 2. I still like Denver. Actually, I like the pieces that Denver has. But I feel like it's kind of like, Phoenix is continuing to have that same group of guys back together, which is what they need. Now, at some point, they got to get over that hump, but they're going to have to face, the NBA Final champs and one of the greatest players of all time, Steph Curry. So I think they're still up there, one of the better teams. I would love to see Minnesota take a step, even though I've been talking about them the past couple of years. They still haven't made that huge jump. I would love for them to take that step, but it just seems like right now, Phoenix is going to be one of the better teams in the league, especially with having a leader and Chris Paul on your team, the way that he, the way he leads. So I think Phoenix doesn't really move up too much. They haven't really signed anybody else. They're just keeping that same group. And I think it'll be big for them, to be honest with you.
All right. I see it in chat. Mark is saying, was Ayton worth the money? I'll get to that point here in a second. Here's my thing. Phoenix getting Ayton back in the fold. I think they'll keep him in at least in top 4, top 3 contention in the West. He's a very efficient big man for today's NBA game. So I think bringing him back in the fold, was smart. But having said that, it's always been a weird thing with, James Jones, Robert Sarver, if they want to pay him max money and whatnot. It's just been strange about it. I think that's one of the things I kind of hate about restricted free agency in the NBA, along with the franchise tag in the NFL. Is just like, okay, you and the player don't come in the right contract, but you're gonna keep it anyways, just because. But lucky for the NBA, your contract's more guaranteed than the NFL in a sense. 4 years, $133 million. When I texted you about Ayton, I said he should fire his agent. The reason I say that, the team you just mentioned, the Denver Nuggets. Michael Porter Jr. signed a very lucrative max deal for 5 years, over $200 million. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad Michael Porter Jr. got his money. I'm a big Michael Porter Jr. fan. But as we've seen over the past few years, ever since Michael Porter Jr. hurt his back in Mizzou, things haven't been right physically with him for a good while. And Michael Porter Jr. and DeAndre Ayton was in the same draft class at that as well. So is Ayton worth the money? Max money? Compared to some of his peers? Yeah. And you talking about DeAndre Ayton, D-Log, that helped lead his team to the NBA Finals. Michael Porter Jr., I don't got those exact numbers. Let me pull those up real quick. I'm getting in, ladies and gentlemen. Give me just a second.
I mean, he's had a hell of a one thing about Michael Porter. He's been playing pretty solid when he is healthy. But that's one of the things that is the issue, is staying healthy at this moment.
So since he's been in the league, that very first year he didn't play because of the back issues. So keep that in mind. Year 2, 2019-2020 season, played 55 games, and started 8, averaging 16 minutes a game. Next year, played 61 games, started 54, averaged about 31 minutes a game. Last year, only played like 9 games, and we know the rest on that. So you basically can chalk up 2 lost seasons. This past year and the rookie year that he didn't play. In about 2 years, he had played barely over 100 games. Now, I always say in the show, D-Lock, if Porter Jr. was healthy, had a great season at Mizzou, all that stuff, and healthy, that, you talk about a different player at number 1 overall pick. Maybe, maybe not. And Ayton probably wouldn't go number 1 overall. You talk about Porter Jr. being 6'10", playing the way he plays. He probably be number 1 overall. Along possibly Luka, whoever you look at it now. But for him to get a max deal for barely playing, and Ayton, yes, I know the suspension for the drugs and stuff like that, the ban something that's probably played a factor into things, but still, there's been other guys over the past years in the NBA who's got max deals for less body of work than Ayton. And that's my thing. What I come down to is like, some of these other deals y'all, especially in the Suns, y'all gave to other players over the years, and y'all balk up at this. That's just my thing. And if you don't want to pay the guy, whatever, let him go. Let's be real about that. That's the thing that kind of killed me too about them matching this offer. If you didn't want to pay him, regardless, I don't care if it's a max deal or not, let him go. That's just my thing. Let the guy go. If you don't go to Indiana, let him go to Indiana. Now you got a big gaping hole at center with JaVale McGee going to Dallas and whatnot. But if you don't want to pay the guy in general, let him go. That's just my thing.
Yeah. If you ain't gonna get him what he want, you might as well go ahead and let that man slide. But that's the thing, like, man, it's just like now and that's a part of the business, right? They're trying to get, when they see, I'm pretty sure as soon as they see that that offer, they wanted to sign that shit quick.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing too, like, that's why I kind of got on the agent too, like, damn. Trying to get, I know a lot of teams didn't have a lot of cap space, but still, at least get those numbers up at least. I just saw before we got on the show, like, Cleveland's about trying to offer Colin Sexton like a 3-year deal for $40 million. I said, no, sir. Like, I know you come out the torn ACL, but still. You're a 20-point scorer at least. And whatnot. And he kind of falls in that same draft class too. But still. sign a qualifying offer, then come out next year, get your money. And I wonder, I doubt this will happen. Oh, hell. Oh, I forgot D-Law. Hell. I forget him. Zion. We talked about him not too long ago. As really barely played. Hell, some folks talk about his weight issues and stuff like that. And he gets a max deal. You know?
Just giving them out to anybody.
Hell, look at Ben Simmons. Doesn't shoot in today's game. I mean, excellent defender, whatnot, can handle the ball, but look what's happened, transpired for him this past year. Do you think everybody think he's worth max money now? It's just real funny how we justify the max contracts and stuff around in the NBA, who's deserving more money and whatnot, and not look at the whole body frame of work. It's just real funny about that. And I hope, like I said, it probably won't happen, but I hope some of these guys who ain't gonna get the money they think they get on come contract negotiations on these extensions, sign a qualifying offer, play that 1 year, become a unrestricted free agent, and go about it that way. If you sign back with your team, cool. If you don't, you're free to go elsewhere to get your money. But that's how I see it, in that case. I think some guys got to take some risks to kind of get out of your situation. And I think Ayton should have been that guy that, okay, they don't play my money. I know I can get more for $133 million. I mean, nothing needs to walk away from. I will not say that, but I know I can get more. I know I can command more. And when more teams have more cap space next year and whatnot, I got to take my chances. And I know with Phoenix being a top team in the West, I know I can get my chips.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. At this point, like I said, I mean it depends on what lands you're looking at. If Phoenix clearly they got away with one, and for Ayton, you have to consider what you need to consider what you need to do moving forward with your agent, because that just was a move that didn't really help you as much as you would like anyway. Like clearly it's money that you and I have never seen, but for those athletes, who work so hard and do so much, they know what they deserve. So, at this point, man, Phoenix has that same team. They've been to the NBA Finals. They need to get it done. Because now we know what Chris Paul and Devin Booker is on the upcoming stars. You have a solid starting lineup. Then you have I think you have a really good bench with Cam Johnson, coming off with campaign as well. So you have a lot of pieces over there. Now, they did lose JaVale McGee. So I think they may play a part, depending on how much Biyombo does. Did he re-sign with them, or is he still a free agent? I think he might still be a free agent.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, for me, I really think that that they still have that solid piece, solid group. And, even with this contract situation, they got to get it done, man. I mean, unless they're going to be one of those teams that were really good that never won a championship.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Ayton. Like I said, he can't be traded till January, so any deal for Durant will have to wait at the moment or whatnot. So, and to update on y'all on that situation, Durant, Kyrie, that situation is just kind of like it's just like dead. It's dead. Russell Westbrook to the Pacers is dead, which I'm glad it don't happen because I'm not giving up 2 first-round picks for fucking Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. Excuse my language, but that's not happening. And I agree with Jeannie Buzz on that. I ain't giving up draft compensation if they ain't put me over the hump. And Buddy Hield and Miles Turner ain't gonna do that for me. Sorry, but not sorry. But anyways, D-Lock. Speaking of draft compensation, before we head out of here, the New York Knicks may or may not be in the front orders for Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is on the trade block for the right price. Excuse me. Danny Ainge is at the helm at Utah. As we've seen his time in Boston, Danny Ainge likes collecting a lot of draft picks, but don't do crap with them. So, he got 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, which I think we both agree Minnesota overpaid for that, especially at his age and whatnot. There's a rumor out there saying the Jazz wants at least 6 first-round picks for Mitchell. Is that a little too much for Donovan Mitchell in your eyes? Or is New York that, I don't say desperate, but are they that hungry for another star quality player to kind of keep them in playoff contention consistently?
Say that trade again.
Well, Danny Ainge, at least in return, like if you want to trade for Donovan Mitchell, at least want 6 first-round picks.
Damn.
Yeah, at least. Donovan Mitchell's a fine player, ladies and gentlemen. We ain't doubting that, but it's just like, damn, that's a lot. But you know what I can pinpoint this to, D-Lock? And how this draft compensation has kind of gotten larger and larger. Go back to the Drew Holiday trade with them, the Bucks and the Pelicans. They got 3 first-round picks for Holiday. And I think we discussed at the time, like, kind of a little much for Holiday. But the end result was what? They won the title that year. Now, like I said, Gobert traded for 4 first-round picks. That's a lot. We've seen Anthony Davis. He got traded for a lot of first-round picks. Now you kind of look at it now like, y'all kind of gave up a little bit too much in draft compensation for him. But, that's another story for another day. But what you think? Do you think New York will pull the trigger on something like that? Or does Donovan Mitchell just kind of stays at Utah for the time being?
So, for me, I think that it's going to be a tough thing for the Knicks to consider. But what I wanted to do was pull up. Let's go look at, before I say what I believe, let's look at the Knicks' first-round picks for the past couple of years. Right, we're not going to talk about this year. We know what they got. Let's look at from last year to about 20 years. Let's look at the last couple picks. So they went K. Jones, Keon Johnson. I think he's in Portland right now, right?
Yes.
Keon Johnson in Portland. Jeremiah, well, he went first round. He went second round. Obi Toppin, Andrew Balmero, both first round. R.J. Barrett, know what he is. Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, Kristaps Porzingis, Tim Hardaway Jr., Iman Shumpert, Jordan Hill, Danilo Gallinari, and Wilson Chandler. Then last person was one person, 2006, Ronaldo Balkman, that's actually my cousin.
Oh, okay. That's what's up.
Yeah. So shout out to him. He's actually playing in Puerto Rico now. But that was in 2006. So if you look at these picks, right, what have they gotten out of most of these picks? that really got too much. These number one picks. Now 6 picks is a lot. Now who started this shit was the Timberwolves, giving so much up for Rudy Gobert. We talked about that. Talked about the Kevin Durant trade. A little bit into Kyrie, and clearly already knowing that if you're going to give up a lot for Rudy Gobert, they're going to ask for a hell of a lot more in Donovan Mitchell. It just sounds insane to give up 6 draft picks, 6 first-round picks for a Donovan Mitchell. But if we're looking at this situation, right, they bet the farm on the fact that they knew or wanted to get Zion. They just thought they were going to get Zion. Everything's going to go how it's supposed to. The NBA draft is not like the NFL draft. We talked about that. That's really, the NFL draft is based off, hey, if you go 0-16 and there's no other team that has that record, your ass is drafted number 1.
Mm-hmm.
You see the Jags do it back-to-back, I believe. That's what that is. You can have the worst record in the NBA, and there's still a chance that you don't get the number 1 pick. So, the number 1 pick is not necessarily considered to be number 1 overall based on how bad the team plays. Now, clearly it gives you opportunity in the lottery, but that's not a for sure number 1 pick like the NFL, or number 1 overall pick like the NFL number 1 pick is. So, for me, I do know that 6 picks does sound like a lot. But that is, how old is Donovan Mitchell? 24, 25?
Yeah.
So that is something that could be considered. You're talking about 6 years. Donovan Mitchell will be 31. Somewhat in his prime. Or still should be in his prime, shall I say. So 6 picks is a lot. Now, depending on what players is involved, right now you have a RJ Barrett, you have a Julius Randle. Mitchell Robinson resigned, correct?
Yes, he did.
So, for me, dude, like, this is a lot of people may not agree, but I'm probably going to take a risk here, and I will go to Utah and say, listen, yeah, 3 players that are not touchable. RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. Actually, Mitchell Robinson could be, traded, but the fact is they've already re-signed him, so he's not touchable. Anything else you can have. But at this point, for the Knicks, we're going all in to get Donovan Mitchell. Outside of those 3. Because what have the Knicks done through the draft, through free agency outside of getting Julius Randle? What have they done to progress? They had the hell of a game. Remember the beginning of the season when we talked about it against Boston when they scored like 120 points or something like that? And they went to overtime, and we thought that the Knicks were going to be this totally different team, and that didn't go well. Evan Fournier, we know what he is. I specifically know what he is because of him being in Orlando. At this point, keep those 3 guys, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, and trade those 6 picks for Donovan Mitchell. They may ask for somebody else, another player. Okay, cool. Because at this point, what they've done in the past 4, 5 to 6 years, since 06 and 07, so I'll say 15 years, it has not went well at all for New York. Hasn't done anything. And at this moment, until we see Kevin Durant get traded or Kyrie get traded, Brooklyn is going to be a team that's going to be something to mess with moving forward. So you have, RJ Barrett, you have Julius Randle. Julius Randle is probably 26, maybe 27. I think I might be reaching if I say he's 27. So you have your group, and you build around that. You get those 3. Okay, cool. You don't have a number 1 pick for the next 4 or 5 seasons, but you have 3 players that should be able to change your franchise moving forward. And you have to have some type of group to move forward with. And I think this is the group that they can have if they pull this trigger. Now, this is not a Chris Bosh, LeBron, and D Wade trio, but they can be competitive if you put this group together. And that solves one of the problems because, again, we talk about 6 years, 6 years worth of picks. but those picks are not guaranteed to be number one. Now we were talking about, like I said, literally being number one pick for the next 6 years. Okay, that's clearly off the table. But at this moment, Donovan Mitchell is probably averaging 27 a night, 25, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a player who can give you a 25 or 20, between 25 and 28, matching with RJ Barrett, who is becoming a star, and Julius Randle. Now you have something to build around. 6 is a lot of picks, but for me, I'm pulling that trigger at this moment. Why? Because since 2006, or if I continue to count back down, the Knicks haven't done anything. People are now literally talking about playing at Madison Square Garden as that's just where other players come and drop 50 pieces and have high scoring, the most they scored in their career. They have a career nights at Madison Square Garden now. Not necessarily there to compete with the Knicks, but to go up there and have career nights. So that notion needs to change, and maybe pulling this trigger could change that. And also, to me, to add on to that, they're in the East. You're in a side where this is an evolving door. Who gets in the playoffs on them last 3 or 4 spots? You got your 1, 2, 3, 4 teams, but outside that bottom 4 can go to anybody. So I understand that 6 is a lot. But right now you're looking at a player that can give you 25 and 27. And not only that, you're pairing him with 2 other up-and-coming stars. Now, if you didn't have anybody else, okay, it doesn't make sense. But you got the guys you drafted this year. You throw in another guy that they want, and give those picks up and try something, man. Because what they've done the past 15 years has not worked. They've been drafting terrible, to be honest. If we're being real, they have been drafting bad. So to take that chance again, the teams that have done that in the past, the Lakers did that back in the 70s, I believe. The Celtics did it at some point. So these teams, they've made these differences, and once you get the ball rolling, and the Knicks is a historic franchise, right? So this is what we want to see them to be successful. And I think that maybe this is something that you have to risk and see what's going on. Because clearly right now, Utah is getting rid of everything that they have. So if they want 6 picks, okay, cool. Let them have them 6 picks. Let them figure that out. But you already got an RJ Barrett, very young, who's going to be there for longer than 6 years, who I would expect to be there. Julius Randle, I think he's going to be there for a while. And clearly you give up 6, Donovan Mitchell's going to be there for a while. So for me, I would definitely consider.
Well, y'all heard the man. I think the Knicks, we shall see what the Knicks should do and see if Leon Rose and company pull the trigger or if James Dolan screws the deal. But y'all heard the man. He said the Knicks should do it. But we shall see, if they're going to give all that draft capital. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us. D-Lock, how can people find you on social media?
Black-813 on Twitter and Instagram. I know they can find you at, man.
You can find me on Twitter at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288. Also, do follow the show on Fast Break IESR. That's Fast Break IESR. Also, do check out IESportsRadio.com for all the latest news and posts on all shows in the network. Also, I do another show on the side called The Crooks Process. You can find the show on Instagram and Facebook. I recently did an episode about Vince McMahon, and probably drop another episode about him retiring here in the short future. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in with us. We'll be back here next week. Hopefully some news will pop up. If not, we'll come up with something. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.